have some lessons on this channel. I really miss most of you. Um, I hope you're doing very well. In this particular discussion, we'll be looking at balancing of chemical equations. In balancing of chemical equations, there are some simple things that I have to show you, and then you can get over it. So, balancing of chemical equations actually is not anything so complex. We'd have to, in this channel, I will teach you how to balance equations with ease. Yeah, and then in the subsequent videos, we'll be looking at how to name compounds, and then look at other WASSCE related questions on this platform. Stay tuned as we learn. Don't forget to subscribe if you have not done that. Yeah, so in balancing of chemical equations, there are some key things you want to know before we zoom into balancing of chemical equations. The first thing, why do we call it an equation? This symbol here represents an equal to sign, an equation. So this is an equal to sign actually. And then we have the first thing we want to know that in the equation we have the reactant and we have that of the product. And so A plus B now is reacting to give you the product. Good. Now the first thing we want to know is that this is an element, this is an element. Now when elements combine, we get something called compound. So that's what is a compound. A compound here is for the chemical combination of two or more elements. You see this one here is an element, but A and B, there are two elements that will combine. So this one becomes a compound. So a compound is a chemical combination of two or more elements. Is that okay? Now if you look at mixture, mixture is just what? The physical combination of two or more substances. That is mixture. So, and then if you look at chemical compound or compound and a mixture, one difference that for compound, there is loss or gain of energy. By mixture, there is no loss or gain of energy. So we'll look at that one intensively as we move on. And so the next thing we want to know is that we first of all know that this is a reactant, this is a product, and this thing here become a compound. Okay, and then now the next thing we want to remember is that how many atoms or how many elements are present in a particular compound. In this particular compound, we can see we have one, the subscript here, the numbers at the down we call the subscript. The subscript here tells you that okay, the number of elements that are present, the number of elements that are present. All right, so you as I'm saying, the subscript, this is the subscript. It tells you the number of atoms or elements that are present. So if you look at this particular one, we have A, how many elements are present in A? A here is 1. If you look at B, B has 2 elements. And if you look at C, C has only 1. Okay, then if you look at D here, how many elements are present here? This one. In this particular compound, E has 1 element. Now look at this particular one. When they put a bracket here and they put a subscript here, the 2 here multiplies all the numbers we have here. So it means F here we have 2 of the F and we have 2 of the G. So this is what you have to take note of. We have 1A, we have 2 of the B's, we have 1C, we have 1 of the D, we have 1 of the E. But when it comes to F, here there's a number here. The number here multiplies this particular one. So we have 2 of the F and we have 2 of the G as well. Good. That's the second thing we want to know before we jump into balancing of chemical equation. The third thing that we want to know in balancing of chemical equation is that when you want to balance the equation, never in your life write a number at the subscript. For instance, let's say A, we have 2A here, then we have A here. Now how many elements do we have at A? We have 2 at this side. Now how many do we have at this side? We have 1. Now if you want to make the numbers of elements here the same, we don't add number at the subscript. Your duty, you can only multiply. Note that one. And how do you multiply? You put it at the side. And so we have 2 A's here, we have only 1 A here. If you want the A to be the same, when you say balance, you want them to be the same. The one on the left hand side should be equal to the one on the right hand side. So you want them to be the same. One, never forget that you don't write the number, you don't go and write 2 here. That will be wrong. We don't write number at the subscript. We can only introduce a number at the side, and that is multiplication. So what can we do here? For A and this thing to be, so I'll put 2 here, and now you see 2 times 1 will give what? 2. It means that it's not the same. So 2 times 1 here will give you 2. So we say now it is now balanced. It means we now have 2A. You realize that we didn't put a 2 here. Let's look at another example before we look at a chemical equation. If you have something like A, let's say we have a compound A2B3, A2B3. Now A2B3 here, and we have A plus B, A plus B. You want to balance this equation. Let's say we have that of 6 6, A plus B 6. Now, how do you balance this equation? This is what we are going to look at. How many atoms of A do you have here? Usually, I tell students to put a line like this. Then write, how many A do you have here? We have 2 of the A's. How many of the B's do you have here? You have 3 of the B's. We need a pencil to do that. How many of the A's do you have here? We have what? We have 1 of the A. And how many of the B's do you have here? We have 6 of them. Good. We have 6 of them here. Good. So what are you going to do? We want to balance it. The A, let's start with the A. We have 2 of the A. So what will I do? I want to put 2 here. When I put a 2 here, 2 times 1 will give you what? It's going to give you 2. Right? So it means that the A is balanced. We have 2 of the A here. We have 2 of the A here. That's balanced. Then we move on to B. B here is 3. How many B do you have here? It's 6. So how do I make this one? How do I make this one 6? You don't go and change this one, write 6 here. You put the number here. So what times 3 will give you 6? 2. So I put 2 here. Remember, the moment you put 2 here, the number you put here will multiply this number. So 2 times 2 here become 4. A is now 4. Then 2 times 3 will now become 6. You go over again, check. How many A do you have here? We now have 4 of the A's. Have you seen it? 2 times 2. The A's are now 4. Good. Let's now go and check. How many A do we have here? We have 2 of the A. So I have to make this one what? 4, right? So when I change this one here, remember, what times this 1 will give you 4. So when I put 4 here, 4 times 1 will give me what? 4. Is that okay? 4 times 1 will give you 4. So we know that the A is not balanced. Let me go to the B. 2 times 3. 2 times 3 will give you 6. So we said that what? The B is also 6 now. Let's come to this side. The B is 6 here. So we said our equation is balanced. The equation is now balanced. Alright, so let's look at this compound. These are illustrations. Now here, I want to balance this equation. So quickly, I roll a line down. Ask myself, how many A's do you have here? We have 2 of the A here. We have the B here to be 2. And then we have, this is together. So whatever I multiply will affect all this one. Then we have how many of the A here? We have 2 of the A's as well here. Then when you get here, how many of the B do you have? We have 1 of the B. And how many of the A's? We have 3 of them. Good. Now, we want to balance it now. Good. So we know that, so you can still repeat the numbers here. So let's go. How many A's do I have here? We have 2 of the A. We have another A, which is 2. So the A's in total are how many? 4. Let me count here. How many of the A's do we have in total? We have 3 of the A's. It's not balanced. So here is 3 and here is what? Here is 4 and here is 3. So what do I do? If it's a problem, you can move on to B. Good. How many of the B's do you have? How many of the B's do you have? How many of the B's do you have? Now, you see, if I have this particular one here, if I have this, so if I want to still balance the A, if I put a number here, let's go. The B's here are 2, but we have only 1 of the B. What will I do to make the B 2? So if I put a number here, let's say 2. We know now, if I put any number you put here, because these are together, there's no plus or minus. These two affect all this one. So 2 times 1 will give you 2. Right? 2 times 1 will give you 2. Then 2 times the 3 here will give what? 6. It means we have the B9 is what? 2 here. We have 2 here. But the A9 is 6. Now how many of the A's do we have? We have 2 and 2 here, making 4. How do I make it 6? Right? If I put 2 here, so 2 times 2 give what? 2 times 2 give you 4 here. Then how many of the B's do we have here? We have 2 of the B's. We have what? How many of the A's do you have? We have 2 of the A's. So let's now check and see if the equation is balanced. A, we have 4 of the A's. And 2 here, making in all we have 6A, right? Is that okay? We have 4 here, 4 of the A's here, 2 here, making 6. Now how many of the B's do we have? We have 2 B's here, we have 2 B's here. So the equation is now balanced. The equation is balanced. So quickly, let's continue and look at real compounds. Let's look at some of the compounds here. We'll look at that of the compounds here quickly. Alright, so we'll look at 10 examples of some chemical equations and their balancing. So quickly, this is a compound, zinc plus hydrogen chloride amounts to this. So how do I balance this quickly? I rule a line this way. And I ask myself, how many of the zinc do you have here? We have 1 of the zinc. We have 1 hydrogen. We have 1 chlorine. And when I come to this side, we have 1 of the zinc. We have 2 of the chlorine. Then we have what? 2 of the hydrogen. Good. So let's now start. Is the zinc balanced? The zinc, we have 1 here. We have 1 zinc here. So the zinc is balanced. I'll move on to the next alphabet, which is H. How many of the H do we have here? We have one of the H here. How many of the H do we have here? We have two of them. So how do I make this one also 2? How do you do it? You don't change it to be 2. You put a number here to multiply the 1. What number will multiply this 1 to give you 2? So we know that if I put 2 here, this 2 times 1, the moment you see they are together, so 2 times 1 give you 2. And 2 times this will give what? 2 as 4. Is that okay? Now let's go. We have one of the zinc, one zinc here. How many hydrogen do we have here? This is the answer now. We have now have 2 hydrogen. Because of these 2, we have 2 hydrogen. We also have 2 hydrogen here. So hydrogen is balanced. Let's now move on to chlorine. How many of the chlorine do we have here? Look at it here. The chlorine now is 2. How many chlorine do we have here? We have 2 chlorine. So the equation is balanced. It means we only need to add 2 here. So when I'm done with this, I quickly have to. Okay, so if exam time you are just presenting this particular one as your answer, this is your answer now. Let's go to the second equation and see. If you have an equation like copper Cu plus H2SO4, okay, amounts to CuSO4, okay, plus H2O, let me write it very well, plus H2O, okay, plus SO2. Now we have to balance this equation quickly. Balancing this equation, what do? I quickly rule a line here and ask myself, how many of the copper do you have here? We have 1 of it. How many of this hydrogen do you have? You have 2 of the hydrogen. You have 1 sulfur. You have 4 oxygen. When I come to this side, we have 1 of the copper. We have 1, and we have 4 of this. Then we have 2 of the hydrogen, 1 oxygen, 1 sulfur, 2 oxygen. Is that okay? Now let's look at balance of this equation. Let's start with copper. We have 1 copper here. Let's look at the number of copper we have here. We have 1 copper here. It means it's okay, right? Good. Let's look at hydrogen. How many hydrogen do I have here? I have 2 hydrogen here. 2 hydrogen here. How many hydrogen do I have here? There is 2 hydrogen here. So the hydrogen is also balanced, right? Good. Let's go to the S. We have 1 S here. But we have how many S here? 1 here. Another 1 here means the S in total are what? 2. So the S is not balanced. What do? We have 2 of the S here, but we have 1 here. Good. Now, what will I multiply with this 1 to give me 2? Because we have 1 S here, and we have another 1 S here. So the S here is 2. But this side, we have only 1 of the S. What will I multiply with this 1 to give me 2? So quickly, I know that I have to multiply 2. You don't want to put 2 in between here because they are together. You put 2 at the side. So the moment I introduce 2 at the side, now use that number to multiply all the numbers you have beside it. It means you are going to have what? 2 times 2, the hydrogen now become 4. 2 times 2 will give you 2. And 2 times 4 will give you what? 8. Is that okay? Quickly, I'm going to check again. Now, I have to check. How many of the sulfur do I have here? It's now 2. How many of the sulfur do I have? You have 2. Good. Now let's look at the oxygen. The oxygen. Let's move on to the oxygen. Oh here, how many do I have here? It's now 8. You look at the number here. Oxygen is now 8. Have you seen it? Because there are 2 inputs here. Instead of becoming 4, it's now 8. So we have 8 of the oxygen here. Now we want to move on to this one. How many of the oxygen do we have? We have 4 oxygen here. And then we have how many? 1 here. And we have 2. In all, how many will it be? We have 4 oxygen here. We have 1 here, making 5. And we have 2 here, making 7. But here is 8. What do? What will I multiply to give me 8? If you are not getting it, quickly come back and check your equation again. How many copper do I have here? We have 1 copper here. We have 1 copper. How many of the hydrogen do we have? Hydrogen here is 4. Hydrogen here is not 4. Look at the number of hydrogen here. How many hydrogen do we have here? We have how many? 2. So what will I multiply with 2 to give me 4? We have 4 hydrogen here. How many will I multiply with this 2 to give you 4? We know we have to multiply with 2. When I multiply with 2, what happens? What happens here? We'll not have how many of the hydrogen? We'll not have 4 of it, right? And how many of oxygen will we have? We'll have 2 oxygen here. So we know our hydrogen is balanced. Let me go to S again. We have how many S here? We have 2 of the S here. How many S do we have here? We have 1 here, and we have another 1 here. So the S is also 2, which is balanced, right? And let's go to the O now. O, we have how many here? We have 8 here, right? We have 8 O here. Let's go here. We have 4 here. Then how many do you have here? You have 2 here. We have 2. You see it's balanced. How many oxygen? We have 4 oxygen here. Have you seen it? We have 2 of it here. making 6. We have another 2. So your equation is balanced. So what do you have to present exam time? This is the only thing you have to present in your exam time, and that's it. Alright, so there are other methods, but then let's try use this one before I introduce the other method to you. But then try and follow. We are saying that I roll a line here. Ask myself, how many hydrogen do I have here? We have 2 hydrogen here. Then we have how many? We have 1 sulfur here. We have 4 oxygen here. And then the same side we have 1 copper here. Now you know this one. We are going to have 2 oxygen here. We are going to have how many hydrogen? We are going to have 2 hydrogen here. Then we come to this side. Don't let these numbers confuse you. These are the numbers you are going to multiply with. Then we are going to have 1 copper here. We are going to have 1 sulfur. We are going to have 4 oxygen here. And here they are together. We are going to have 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen. Good. Now I want to balance this equation. What do? I can only introduce number at the sides. At the side, not in the middle, at the sides. At the sides. So let's start with hydrogen. I ask myself, how many hydrogen do I have? We have, look through all the equations, see how many hydrogen do we have here. We have 2 hydrogen here. We have another 2 hydrogen here. It means we have 4 hydrogens in all. 4 hydrogens in all. Good. Now, when I come here, how many hydrogen do I have? I only have 2 hydrogen here. Have you seen it? So what will I do to make the hydrogen here 4? We have to introduce. What will I multiply with these 2 so that it will not become 4? So when I introduce a number, I introduce 2 here, 2 here. These 2 times these 2 here will give you 4. Remember they are together, so the 2 also multiply by 1, making what? 2, right? Good. So it means that the hydrogen is now 4. We have 4 hydrogen here. And how many hydrogen do we have in all? We have 4 hydrogen because of 2 and 2 hydrogen, making 4. I'll go to S and C. S now, how many do we have here? We have 1 S here, right? We have 1 S here. Good. Is that right? We have 1 S here. How many S do we have here? We also have 1 S. So S is balanced. We go to O. O, oxygen. Oxygen, we have 4 oxygen here. And then we have how many oxygen here? Look at under O. 2. So 4 plus 2 means we have 6 oxygen all. Let's come to this side. How many oxygen do we have? We have 4 here, right? And then here, how many do we have? We'll come back to the red one now. It means we have 2. So 4 plus 2 is balanced. So we know that the oxygen is also balanced. Let's now go to the copper. Copper, how many copper do we have here? We're having 1 copper here, right? We have 1 copper here. And how many copper there? We have 1 copper. And we are done. We look at the oxygen already. So we are done with this particular one. So what I go to present, it means the equation they've given you, to balance the equation, you only need these 2 here to balance it. Is that okay? And that's the balance equation. Let's move on to the 4th one, the 4th example. We'll do at least 10 examples. Quickly, the 4th one, we have sodium carbonate, CO3, okay, plus what? HCl, maps to what? NaCl, okay, plus CO2, plus H2O. Good. Now, let's balance this equation. Quickly, I write a line this way, and I ask myself, how many sodium do we have here? We have 1 sodium. We have 1 sodium here. We have 1 carbon. We have 3 oxygens. And we have 1 hydrogen here. And then we have 1 chlorine here. If we come to this side of the equation, we are going to have this side of the equation. We are going to have 1 sodium, 1 chlorine. And then how many carbon do we have here? We have 1 carbon. We have 2 oxygen. How many hydrogen we have? We have 2 of the hydrogen. We have 1 oxygen. Now I'm not going to balance the equation. I ask myself, how many sodium do I have here? We have 1 of it. In all, look through this 1 sodium. When I come here, we also have 1 sodium. So sodium is balanced. I'm going to the C. We have 1 C here. This Cl, we have 1 C here. Let's go here. How many C do we have? We have only 1 C. So C is balanced. I'm going to O. O, how many O do we have? We have 3 of the O's here. In all, only 3 O. When I come to this side, how many O do we have? We have 2 O here. And we have 1 O here. So 2 and 1, making 3 is balanced. Move on to the H now. How many H do I have here? I have 1 H here. But when I come to this side, I have how many of the H? 2. So what will I do to the 1 to make it 2? I have to, 1 times 1 to give you 2. We know it's going to be 1 times 2. So quickly, I introduce my 2 here. So now if I introduce 2 here, don't forget. Now, anything you introduce here, see whether it will affect here. Whatever it will affect, you write it here. So 2 times 1 will give you 2. So it means the hydrogen on 2, and then it will affect the chlorine. So 2 times 1 will also give you 2 here. So we know the hydrogen is balanced, right? Good. Because we have 2 hydrogen, we have 2. Now let's go to the chlorine. Okay, so as I said, we have two of the hydrogen here, hydrogen. We have two of the hydrogen here, we have two of the chlorine. So we want to move on to the chlorine. We have how many chlorine here? Remember, it's affected it. So we now have two of the chlorine. Let's go through and see. How many chlorine do we have here? We have one chlorine. And I want to make this chlorine what? Also what? 2. What time is the 1 will give you 2? Quickly, we know that we have to introduce what? 2 here. If I introduce 2 here, remember, whatever I introduce will affect you right down here. So 2 times 1, we are going to have 2. And 2 times this, we're going to get 2. So we know that the chlorine is balanced. Now, before you submit your work, go through again. Ask yourself, how many... Alright, it's like I've done a mistake with the question. Here is already 2. Sorry about that. There's 2 here. This sodium carbonate should be this way. Good. So NaCO2. Let's look at it quickly. So we have now N here should be 2, right? N here is 2. We have C here to be what? 1. Okay. There's a mistake with the question. There should be 2 here. Good. So this sodium carbonate. So we now have 2 here. Let's see whether it's balanced. We have 2 of the sodium here. How many sodium do you have? We have 2 of them. 1C. Carbon here is 1. Carbon in the equation is also 1. O here is what? 3. Right? How many O do we have here? We have 2 and we're making 3. Move on to the hydrogen. Hydrogen now is what? 2. How many hydrogen do we have here? We have 2 of the hydrogen. Let's go to Cl. How many of the Cl do we have here? We have 2. And how many of the Cl do we have here? We also have 2 here, and that's it. Let's move on to the fifth example. For the fifth example, we want to look at this compound. The compound Al, aluminium, plus HCl, okay, amounts to aluminium chloride, okay, plus H2. Quickly, I wrote my line and ask myself, how many aluminium do we have? We have 1. How many hydrogen? We have 1. How many chlorine? We have 1. Then aluminium, how many do we have here? We have 1. How many of the chlorine? We have 3. And how many of the hydrogen here? We have 2. Good. I want to balance this now. Quickly, I want to check aluminium. We have 1 here. Aluminium is also 1, so it's balanced. I'll go to the hydrogen. We have 1 hydrogen here. But the hydrogen here we have is 2. So what will I do to this 1 so that it becomes 2? So I have to introduce 2 to this side of the equation. So I'm going to introduce 2 to this side of the equation. Now if I introduce 2 to this side of the equation, what are you going to have? You're going to have what? Hydrogen here to be what? 2, right? 2. And then chlorine here should also be 2. Good. So you know the hydrogen is now. Now we move on to chlorine. Look at chlorine. How many chlorine do we have here? We have 2 of the chlorine. It's no longer 1 because of the 2 input here. So now we have 2 of the chlorine. How many chlorine do we have here? We have 3 of the chlorine. Now how do I make it balance? Good. Now sometimes if you are confused, you can look at the numbers that you used to multiply. Good. So this is 2 and this is 3. If you know the number to make this one 3, you can use the number here to multiply this one. And the number there to also multiply. Okay, so chlorine is not balanced. Quickly, I would have to look at it again. Good. So because here chlorine is 2, here chlorine is 3. What if I put 2 here? If I should put 3 here, if I change this one to be 3, let's see what happens. I want the chlorine to be 3. Let's assume I put 3 here. If I should put 3 here, what will happen to it? So let's say here we had 2 here. So let's say if I put 3 here, hydrogen will be how many? Let's look at it. Hydrogen will be 3, right? Is that what it? Hydrogen here is going to give us 3. Chlorine is going to give us how many? 3. So you see that what will balance? The chlorine here will be 3 here. But then the hydrogen will not be balanced. Let's go back again. Aluminum will not be 1. What happened to the aluminum here is also 1. So we move on. Hydrogen here is 3. Obviously, because the 3 introduced here. What happens to the hydrogen here? It's 2. So we see that it's no balance. We have to balance it. How do I make this one? This is 2, this is 3. So usually what to do is that you exchange the powers. So quickly, I want to use the 2 down there to multiply this one. So what if I introduce 6 here? Let's put 6 here and see. If I should introduce 6 here, 6 here. So if I put 6 here, let's go. Now what will we have here? 6 times 1 will give what? 6. It means you have 6 of the hydrogen. How many of the chlorine do you have here? You're going to have 6 of the chlorine too. Quickly, let's move on to that of the chlorine here. Good. So we are going to go over. Aluminum is 1. Aluminum is also 1. Hydrogen here is how many? 6. How many hydrogen do you have here? It's 2. Now what will I do to make it 6? I have to put 3 here. So when I put 3 here, we're going to have it to go to be 6. So we said the hydrogen is balanced. How many chlorine do we have here? 6, right? And how many chlorine do you have here? You have 3. What will I do? I would have to put 2 here. This is 2. So 2 times 1 will give what? 2. And 2 times 3 will give what? 6. So chlorine is 6 here. Chlorine is 6 here. I'll go over again to make sure they are balanced. Aluminum here is 1. But how many aluminum do you have here? You're going to have 2 of it. So what will I do to the 1 to become 2? I put 2 here. Look at it. So we have 2 of the aluminum here. We have 2 of the aluminum here. Hydrogen, we have 6 here. How many hydrogen do you have here? You also have 6 here. Chlorine, we have 6 here. How many chlorine do you have here? You have 6. So you see that the equation is balanced. And that's as simple as it is. Alright, so we want to balance this equation. We have potassium hydroxide and sulfuric acid. Now this is it. K here is 1. How many O do we have here? We have 1. How many H? We have 1. When it comes to here, we have 2 of the H. We have 1. Sulfur, we have 4. How many K do we have here? We have 2. We have 1 S and we have 4. How many H? We have 1. We have 2 and we have oxygen to be 1. To balance this equation, we want to start with K and C. How many K do we have here? You look through, we have only 1 K here. And how many K do we have here? We have 2 K's here. So what will I do to this K to give me 2? So I have to introduce 2 here. If I put 2 here, now our K now become 2 times 1 become 2. I told you when you put 2 here, let the 2 you put here affect all this one. So 2 times 1, 2. 2 times 1 will give you 2. And 2 times the H here will also give you 2. So our K is balanced. We have 2 of the K now. We have 2 K. I want to move to O. How many O do I have here? O, we have 2 here. And we have another 4 here, making 6 O's in all. Let me come to this side of the equation. How many O do I have here? I have 4 here, right? Then I have 1 here. What will I do to the 1? 4 plus 1 will give 5. So I need to make it 6. But I know that if I introduce a 2 here, 2 times 1 will give you 2, right? So I put a 2. I introduce 2 to this side of the equation. When I introduce 2 here, all you have, you're going to have hydrogen to be what? Hydrogen here is going to be 4. Then oxygen is going to be 2. So let's go back again and see. K here is 2, right? K here is also 2. O here is what? 2 plus 4 making 6. And O here is what? 4 plus 2. 4 here plus 2 making 6. Let's get the hydrogen. How many hydrogen do I have here? We have 2 hydrogen here. We also have 2 here, making 4 hydrogen all. When I come to this side, how many hydrogen do we have here? We have 4 hydrogen. So our equation is balanced. Let's try the top numbers. So we only need 2 and 2 here to balance our equation. Move on to the 7th example. The 7th example, we have a compound like calcium Ca plus H2O, okay, maps to Ca, we have OH here 2 plus hydrogen, which is H2. Good. I want to balance this equation quickly. I ask myself how many calcium do I have here? We have 1 calcium. How many hydrogen do we have here? We have 2. We have it at the top. We have 1 calcium. We have 2 hydrogen. We have 1 oxygen. Then when I come to this side of the equation, we have 1 calcium. How many oxygen do we have here? We have 2. How many hydrogen? We have 2. And how many hydrogen we have 2 there. So I want to start balancing the calcium. We have 1 calcium here. We have 1 calcium. It's balanced. How many hydrogen do I have here? We have 2 hydrogens here. How many hydrogens do I have here? I have 2 and 2 making 4. So if here is 2 and here is 4, all I do to the 2 to make it 4, I have to introduce 2 to this side of the equation. When I put 2 here, remember it will affect all this one. So now hydrogen is now become what? Here is what? 4, right? 4. And here oxygen is now 2. So I'm going to check and see if my equation is balanced. We have 1 calcium here, we have 1 calcium here. Hydrogen here is 4. Hydrogen here is what? 2 plus 2 making 4. It's balanced. Oxygen here is what? 2. Oxygen here is also 2. Have you seen it? 2. So my equation is balanced. So this whole equation, the only number I need here is 2 to make my equation balanced. And so we move on to the last example, then I'll give it 2. Or let me give you 3 examples. You try them on your own and see how you can balance it. You give me the feedback and I'll go through for you. So let's look at these examples. I'll give you some works to try answering. Alright, so try your hands on these questions and then let's see if you can balance it. We have other ways of balancing this question where you can write the various letters. For instance, you can write H, N, and all those ones. If I have to do that, then maybe in the next video or probably subsequent videos, I may try that method as well. So try use this method and see if it will work. If it doesn't work, give me the feedback, and then I'll try do another video to cover up for this balance of chemical equations. And so don't forget to subscribe. Try learning, keep learning, and then I hope you will come out successfully. And so these are the few questions. Question 1, 2, 3. Try and balance it, and then we'll meet another time. All the best.